every function in a culture is performed by a role. So a police man or a police human deals with law and order. A prosecutor prosecutes. A defense attorney defends their client. Now, it's dangerous, it's somewhat dysfunctional and suboptimal to define roles that do not directly link with well-being. And the reason for that is the underlying fear of the unknown that is the dominant driver of cult psychology. So in a traumatic culture such as our own, that is traumatically illiterate, meaning we know how to traumatize people often without labeling it. We don't know how to repair and prevent a lot of the trauma. And when we give and create PTSD, we are largely incompetent as a cult to recognize it, respond, and heal what is a disease. So we're in a high level of incompetence. Now, an identity is a pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being. So any pattern that, I think these thoughts. I thought these thoughts yesterday. I thought them the day before that. This is where they emerged. I think these thoughts. I believe these things. That's a pattern. I feel these things about these thoughts, about these beliefs. That's a pattern. I do these things based on my thoughts, based on my feelings, based on my beliefs. I do these things. And I am this way. This is how I sound, my body, etc. appears. This is my pattern. This is me. Now, me is just a pattern. If you delete the pattern, there's no I. There's no me that's the one that thinks this, feels this, does this, says this, is this way. And when an identity is lost, when an identity is shattered, when an identity loses coherence, it puts us in the unknown. I don't know who I am. Why? Because you lost your identity. How? Either you let it go and didn't put anything new in its place, like, I'm just not going to believe that anymore. So what are you going to believe? I don't know. Well, then you don't know who you are. Because the you that you can identify is a you that repeatedly thinks, feels, and does these types of things. You have to see a recognizable pattern. And whenever you see this pattern, you say, yeah, that pattern looks like me. Close enough, yeah. I mean, I've changed a bit, dressed this differently, etc. But this is the pattern. So a traumatized culture has as its primary deity avoiding pain, shame, helplessness, terror, and that's really it. If you're in pain, asking for help and nobody's helping you, no one's helping you and you're not asking for help and you need help. If you're in terror and you're helpless because a superior force, a bully, a parent, a government, or whatever, a superior force is attacking you, and you can't escape, and you're in a lot of pain and fear, and you're helpless. No one is helping. No one is responding. This is the worst thing that a human being can deal with. It's called trauma. It's overwhelming energy that's destroying your pattern of freedom, your identity. Now, in a culture that is capable of producing this regularly and just sibling rivalry, number one, but is incompetent to respond to it, there is residual trauma. The trauma doesn't get healed, and it can be triggered back into kind of full-scale intensity up here. You just need the right little trigger down here, and it blows up, and you relive that helplessness, that fear that didn't get resolved. Now, anyone who's gone through that has a common deity, a common purpose, and the common deity and purpose is I never want to feel that way again. Nobody does. I never want to feel that way again. I will do anything not to feel that way. Well, that trauma has just corrupted, the identity. It used to be about freedom and authenticity and growth and happiness and well-being. But that was when there wasn't a major trauma. Now there's a major trauma that left me feeling completely and utterly helpless. And none of that stuff really helps. So my number one goal has shifted to not feeling that. I don't want to feel that pain. And the psyche, the unconscious, the subconscious mind responds. And there are some ripple effects to I never want to feel that way again. One of them is you have to be in control. Why do so many people work so hard to be in control of so many things when it's so tiring? Because if you don't want to ever feel that way again when you were out of control, the cost of reducing the risk of ever feeling that way again is you got to be in control. So you got to constantly be in control. You got to be figuring stuff out. You got to be wondering, no, that person might make me feel that way, and I don't want to feel that way ever again, so I'm going to avoid that person. So this is what you have to do. And the consequence of that is fear of the unknown, because you don't have any control in the unknown. You have control of the known. In your house, where you know if everything is and you can walk freely around, you've got control. If I put you blindfolded in a maze in a place you've never been before, you do not have control. I mean, you may be able to move your body around if I haven't handcuffed you, but you don't know what's going to happen if you do. What if there were a bunch of buttons with automatic guns and you felt around, pressed one, and it shot you? See, you're out of control because you're in the unknown. Well, the fear of avoiding the unknown ties into the fear of avoiding being out of control, ties into the fear of being helplessly in pain and terror and not being able to stop it. So that's the driving deity. Now, an identity is known because it's a habit. I think this thing. That's me. I think that thing. That's still me. I think that thing. Ah, good. Now I know what I think. Okay. Is it a good thought? Is it a bad thought? It doesn't matter. Now I know what I think. I feel this. I feel this. I still feel this. I must be the one who feels this, right? So it feels wonderful. It's familiar. Now, when you lose your identity, you face the unknown, you go out of control, and that anxiety comes up. I never want to feel that way again. I could feel that way any moment. I don't know. I'm out of control. So one of the consequences of, this largely invisible deity, meaning unless you're trauma literate, it isn't entirely clear that the ultimate deity in the cult is fear of the unknown, fear of being out of control, and fear of being re-traumatized. Now you look at how many of the decisions in the cult are made out of fear. I'm going to wear, I'm going to put makeup so I don't look bad. I'm going to have to lose weight so that I don't get laughed at, so that I don't get rejected. I've got to make more money so that I won't be rejected. Well, so you're rejected. But if you follow the fear back far enough and see, well, why are you afraid of that? And why are you afraid of that? And why are you afraid of that? And why are you afraid of that? what you find is at the core, I never want to feel that way again, a way that I felt in my infancy, a way that I felt in my childhood, and may have buried, oh, that was just a kid, I'm dissociated. But the instinct is still there. The body memory is still there. I never want to feel that way again. How do I do that? I've got to create a stable identity where I'm in control, where I can predict what will occur. Because it's the same thing that occurs last time I do that. I press the button on the kettle. That's what I do. I wake up, I go over to the kettle. So that's your pattern of behavior. I press the button on the kettle. And what happens? Exactly what happened yesterday. The light turns on, it starts heating up. And then what happens? Well, it bubbles, there's steam popping out. And then that's what happens. So I'm in control, right? Push the button. Flowers don't pop out. What's going on? What's going on? Why do, because for the moment when something unexpected happens, they don't know what's going on. They feel out of control. And that's the risk. That's the risk of one's deepest fear, because one's deepest imaginable fear, which is always linked to the deepest imaginable pain, which can be loneliness or hurt or betrayal or whatever it is, your deepest fear is linked to your deepest pain. Your deepest pain is what you do not want to feel, what you want never to feel again, and what you're trying to stay in control to avoid feeling. So we give people an identity, and in our cult, we define people by their job. Oh, you're an important person, you're a policeman. You're an unimportant person, you're a garbage person. Statistically, we rank these jobs. Oh, that's the president. We might say, oh, we don't rank people, but oh, that's the president. If you respond completely different based on someone's role, you rank people. You may not want to admit it, but when you rank people, there's a hierarchy. These are the people at the bottom, and these are the people at the top. Usually weird people who aren't your cult members are at the way bottom. And then the president or the leader, in chauvinistic cults, it's usually a man, is the highest ranking. So you have an identity that is ranked in your cult, and you're being ranked primarily by your identity. Now, if you lose your identity, you lose your rank. Your rank disappears, and you don't know, and you can't protect yourself in the unknown. You're vulnerable. In the unknown, you're vulnerable. So people cling to their identity very tightly. I'm an attorney, and attorneys do this. I'm a man, and men do this. But that hurts you. That's stupidity. I'm a man, and I do this. I think this. I feel this. I'm an American, and I do this. I think this. I feel this. I'm a Catholic. I do this. I think this. I am this. Thankfully, someone wrote it down. Why? Because it's strong and solid. If I get lost and confused, I can read what I am, right? I am a Catholic. Let's read I'm this. I'm the one who believes all that. That's the one I am. Well, why do you believe that Sheba was a woman who did this rather than that? Then why don't you believe that Sheba was this? Well, that's not what it says in the book. Well, why are you believing the book? Because I want my identity to be solid. Well, why do you want your identity to be solid? Why not be a new person regularly? Just be this person, be that person. Try this. Try being a woman for a day and do all these things. It would be so entertaining. No, I'm not doing any of that. I am here, and I am this, and that's who I am, and don't mess with it, right? Don't mess with my identity. This is the favorite American, myth, right? So-and-so came in, they tried to mess with me, right? This is the narrative. But they didn't know who I was. They didn't count on this. They didn't count on that, right? So why are Americans so interested in this story? It's rather boring. I'm this. I'm the this, and this. Okay. And then because of that, I do these things. And I'm important because I do these things. Okay, fine. And then they didn't know who I was. They didn't know who they were pulling over. That cop thought he was just pulling over some poor black person who they were going to intimidate. But they didn't know that I'm the attorney general and da-da-da. And so, what's... my apology to the cops that are great and wonderful cops and all that, but there's definitely been a lot of racism going on and continuing, but Americans love this particular story. They thought I was poor. Why? Because poor means nothing, right? You're worthless if you're poor. You're important if you're on the Forbes 400 list. You're worthless if you're poor. If you're on the Forbes 400 list, that's a very important list. So billionaires spend their time. They've been defined by their money. Why are they defined by their money? That's the only thing people are measuring. In a capitalist cult, see, this is why role is so important. In a capitalist cult, you are either a successful capitalist. Now, what is a successful capitalist? That turns $1 into $2 and $2 into $4. That's a successful capitalist. Or you're a loser because you're viewing the lens, the capitalist lens, right? So now you are either making capital or you're losing the game. So, okay, so who are the ultimate winners of the game? That's been defined as, the set and setting for the competition, for the engagement, money. Who has the most money? Okay, so who does? The people on the Forbes 400 list. What about the kindest people in the country? Well, we don't measure those. What about the best mothers? We don't measure those either. Well, do we need billionaires or good mothers more? What's better for the environment, the culture as a whole? What do we need more, billionaires or mothers? Well, obviously, first we need mothers to give birth to the billionaires. So if the billionaires are so important, they're mothers. Mothers, Who knows which woman will create the next billionaire if they're so important? So, got to take care of those women, because otherwise, no more billionaires. So, we all want to feel valuable and important. So we start trying to climb the ranking system that will be valued. You're worthless. You're nothing. You're a disgrace. A disgrace. You are important because you have these rankings. Well, rank is established by role. The role of the president to preside. I preside. I am the president. But when people's value is being defined by their role, number one, their rank, part of that, and their protection of the unknown, as well as the basis for surviving and feeling secure, getting money in a capitalist framework. When all of that is linked to the role, and the role has an identity, what does a prosecutor do? They prosecute. What does a defense attorney do? They defend. Now, here's the trouble. Since we've got some of the most massive forces in psychology descending on the individual psyche, the problem with all of that descending on the role is that if the role is designed poorly, people will cling to it for dear life to protect them from the unknown as they destroy sustainable well-being because their role, their recipe, is faulty. Let me give you an example. I had a homeless person in this studio a few days ago, and he was talking about what is clearly an abuse of public funds. So what's an abuse of public funds? Well, they take taxes. If you don't pay your taxes, they'll seize your property, throw you in jail, destroy your family, bankrupt you and leave you penniless and without reputation. So So maybe you want to pay your taxes. Okay, but the reason we're so draconian with gathering these taxes is that we're doing this for your own good. We're going to take this money and we're going to use it for public benefit. And so all those, ruined lives and all that will be offset with even more wonderful things that we're going to do. And that's why we're going to take your money by force if necessary. So then you have a public defender, or you have a prosecutor, right? A district attorney, etc. Well, what is the definition of a prosecutor? Someone who prosecutes. That's the definition. Someone who prosecutes. Now, if you are a prosecutor and you do not prosecute a lot of people, then your identity is weak. It's flimsy. It could be broken apart easily. Someone might look at you and say, "You're not a prosecutor. Show me how many cases you are over there. That person prosecutes. Look at all their cases and look at all the cases they won. That's a prosecutor. You're not a prosecutor. You let this person go. You let that person go. You resolved that amicably. We probably don't even need your job. You're a prosecutor who doesn't prosecute. You're doing a weak job of fulfilling your role." And so how does the prosecutor respond? Well, they respond by competing to do what? To prosecute more people. And more wins. I've got a 95% success ratio. That's good. It's good for what? It's good for the prosecutorial role. The role is happy because if you prosecute, you're supposed to win. So you're supposed to prosecute, so the more prosecutions, the better. And then you're supposed to win if you prosecute, so the more wins, the better. So here you are, your rank, your protection from the unknown, your reputation, your salary, and all that, your maybe political career is depending on how much you sue and arrest your own people. Who are you going to prosecute? You're an American prosecutor. Who are you going to prosecute? You're going to prosecute Americans. So the bad ones, right? That's the theory, right? That's the bad ones. But the more the better. And sometimes the really bad ones are too clever to get caught, or had an alibi or whatever it was. So a really easy target are scapegoats. A race that isn't popular in the United States. African Americans have been targeted for significantly more police activity than any other race. If you want to win and you want to prosecute, you'll target the easiest target. Not because it's personal, but because it's easy. A bully looks around for an isolated, weak person who can't fight. And that's who the bully picks. It's not because that's a fair fight or it's anything personal with that person. The bully picks that person because they're going to win. And how can they identify with being a bully if they don't win? So they have to pick a weak person so that they can identify with winning in the conflict. And so that's how it's done. So you can see that the best prosecutor might not be a very good human being in terms of bringing benefit to the community. The best prosecutor, the one who prosecutes the most people and who wins most of the cases, could be the most dysfunctional member of the community. Because to put all of those people in jail for $100,000 a year of public money and to spend another $100,000 to $200,000 per trial of public money and not do a value risk assessment of who the people were, This person stole such and such. Well, if in 10 minutes you could say, look, we can go through the trial process, or I'd like you to return the stolen thing and give 3 times the money. What do you want? Go to jail or return and give the 3 times the money back? Okay? Video recorded. By what date will the money be in there? Otherwise, you'll have to be arrested. Well, no prosecution. No $200,000 fine. No successful prosecution. What do you have? The victim has more than they started with. The other person has freedom and can still go out and earn income. Maybe it needs to be 5 times the awarded damages or whatever, or maybe it goes to a nonprofit. 2 times to the victim and 3 times to a nonprofit and a public, fund. But criminals are not given the chance to pay for their crimes. Paying for your crimes means get out your wallet or your body and say, look, I'll work these hours or I will donate this money. But instead, the public is all excited about spending what can be tens of millions of dollars for a high-profile trial, in which the public pays to punish the perpetrator, but the perpetrator never pays for their crime, meaning they weren't asked to write a check, they didn't give cash to the victim, they didn't rebuild the life or they didn't pay for the crime. The cult paid to punish the criminal, which is a completely different thing. If I take 20% of your happiness down by killing your dog, so you're now, I killed your dog by talking on my phone. Your happiness is 20% lower. What does paying you for the crime mean? How much is your happiness down? 20%. I'm really sorry. Let's look at ways that I have the capacity to increase your happiness by 20%. How do you do that? Well, let's look at some dogs together. Let me listen to your feelings. Let's look at what's going on. Do you need a friend? Do you need, let's boost your happiness up. That's called paying for a crime. Being punished for a crime is when the cult pays twice. First, the cult had to deal with a criminal, and then the cult pays large sums of money, not to the victim, that would be intelligent, but to make someone suffer. I mean, it's not very high on the intelligence level relative to actually clearing up, the wound. So the role, but you see, even though the prison guard is miserable, you think it's fun standing around locking people up? I mean, obviously, if you feel powerless, this is a good little power hit, but you can't get that much of a rise from it after a year. You think it's funny? So our approach is we spend maybe $1 million to put someone in jail for 10 years because they sold some marijuana, right? And we can't have that. So the person is out there weed, or maybe they've got some weed there. So, payment for the crime, if they're happy, would be to reciprocate some of the happiness. But, let's say we have to stop everyone from smoking marijuana. And so what would paying for the crime be? Would be to go and educate some people and say, don't smoke marijuana. Who's going to make a decision to do that? And okay, so I gave one person some marijuana. I convinced 2 people not to smoke marijuana. Have I paid for the crime? Have I offset it? Yes. Did it take $200,000 of public money? No. Did it take $10 million? Did it take $1 million to lock the person up for 10 years? No. Did it ruin a family and leave them without a father? No. See, we punish everyone in order to focus on retribution. But we don't actually ask someone who commits a crime, who harms someone. We have a lot of crimes where everyone benefits. Like if someone does this, everyone wins, but it's against the law. Tiny homes are like that. Want to build a tiny home that's 200 square feet and put it on your land? Absolutely illegal. Do the neighbors mind skipping 2 years of hammering? Does the earth mind the fact that you didn't have to cut all the trees down just to put a little cottage? Is anyone complaining that you haven't blocked their view with a 3-story mansion? Everyone's winning, but it's against the law, And so, but a lawyer isn't there to be intelligent. A lawyer is there to enforce the law. Good law or pure stupidity. A lawyer is there to defeat the law. The defense attorney is there to defend their client. So a defense attorney will get praised when they get a serial rapist and killer out on the loose, where they can re-victimize. Get out the cigars. This is a great event, right? Why? Because they did their role. What's their role? To defend, to get their client acquitted. That's their role. But what if your daughter is next? Yeah, but I'm not a daughter provider. I'm not a rape protector. I'm a defense attorney. Don't you understand? This is what I do. This is my pattern, and I'm not going to deviate from this pattern because that takes me into the unknown, makes me uncomfortable. I have to face the vulnerability, the fragility of my pattern. If I change this thing, what if some other thing changes? I'm not changing. I'm a defense attorney, and if that means three more girls get raped, so be it. So be it, says the defense attorney. I'm going to defend my client. Defend my client. Defend. Doesn't matter what happens. The entire world could blow up. Would a defense attorney that understands their client has nuclear weapons blow up a city? At what point does someone consider stepping out of their role to actually be intelligent? It's at the point usually where the fear of not stepping out of the role is bigger than the fear of the unknown, which is bigger than the original trauma. And so maybe if your city is going to be nuked by the person you're criminally defending, maybe you, out of fear of being nuked, don't do your role and face being prosecuted, of course, which you would accept. Let's prosecute the defense attorney for violating client privilege by revealing there's a nuclear bomb, right? This is an outrage, right? We can't have attorneys telling people to be safe when they're supposed to be defending criminals. But the reason that it's corrosive to define something as a defense attorney rather than justice and well-being for the people. I create justice and well-being for the people doing this. I seek intelligent solutions. Like if you have that role, my role is to seek an intelligent solution to this problem, where we reduce the suffering in this area by 50% and we increase the sustainable well-being in this area by 100%, thus creating a net 150% improvement towards sustainable well-being, thus leading to a situation that is 150% more intelligent. Now, as we define ourselves that way, we could say, wait a minute. I'm a justice and well-being person. I know my client is guilty, and I believe that these people would be harmed, and these people don't deserve to be harmed, and it will not be good for the community that these people are harmed. So therefore, I'm not going to defend the crime in terms of pretend it didn't happen, But I may do something more intelligent and ask that this person be allowed to make reparations to actual or probable victims, and learn and become an educator to turn the situation around. In other words, rather than going punitive, I'm going to give the person the chance to turn the situation around. And that is intelligent, but it's not defending a criminal. It's not it's not coming up with a case that lies and says this person didn't do this. It's saying this person did this is the impact, and rather than costing the public $1 billion or whatever it is to lock up all these people, let's actually have these people make reparations to the community. How about that? Does that seem just? Is anyone harmed by that? Is anyone harmed by putting someone in a concrete box for 10 years? Absolutely, everyone is. The country that has to pay for it, the judge that has to sit there locking up, that's not a fun job. The warden sitting in front of a steel bar all day, with people that you think are bad people. What a miserable thing, just for what, 50 grand a year? Pathetic. No one's benefiting from that. But re-education, integration, with the focus on well-being, well, everyone benefits from that. So this is, this is why defining the role linked solidly to the end goal, which is always sustainable well-being for all parties concerned. Now, why all parties concerned? Well, even someone you hate, if they are reduced to survival, they've got to start stealing or, committing crimes. With who? With you, of course, because you were too dumb to participate in a situation where everyone could win, which means there's at least one loser. And identities like to live. And you're threatening that identity with a probable negative outcome. So they're not going to feel a lot of sympathy for you as they steal your money or do this or that, are they? Because you're a sociopath. You didn't think about them either. So they don't think about you. And then maybe you learn, you teach each other that it's better to think about all people over time. So that's the focus, and it becomes predictably problematic when roles are so delinked from well-being that in order for someone to be successful, they have got to do the wrong thing for everyone so that they can successfully do their role. Hi, I'm Dane Rose. All knowledge begins with a paradigm, and out of that paradigm comes an idea, an awareness that we adopt, reject, or synthesize into something better. It doesn't become wisdom, it doesn't become useful until we take action, until we integrate it into not only our thoughts, but our feelings, our body, our words, and our way of being. For that to occur, we have to move from the passive media paradigm into more active engagement. In the link below, in the More Information section, is an invitation to join a very small, deliberately filtered, high-quality discussion with a group of people who share a common language and want to work with these ideas, with me and with one another, with the sole goal of creating 10 times more sustainable well-being for ourselves and those around us per unit of energy invested. Thank you for watching.